Hey folks, welcome back to Movies in a Bottle, where I have some sad news. Today's episode is canceled. We were going to break down Men in Black, one of the greatest action sci-fi comedies of the 90s, but then I realized I just have to neuralize it and forget everything anyways, so I'm just kidding. This is my cat's laser toy. Let's roll film. A driver is hauling a bunch of seemingly undocumented passengers when he shouts back that there's a checkpoint ahead. Notice the one in the brown poncho looks last. The driver isn't able to talk himself out of the situation, so the back of his truck is searched where all the passengers are discovered. Before the cop can go any further, two men dressed in black suits show up saying that they're from a division that the cop has never even heard of, and they take over the traffic stop. Kay interviews everyone, and they all do well, except the one in the brown poncho. So he sends them all away, and the man in the poncho turns out to be an alien. Like, from space. Fun fact, actor Tommy Lee Jones is bilingual from growing up in Texas, so he had no problem with his Spanish lines. This seems like business as usual for the agents, but the interrogation with the alien is cut short when the cops get curious and tries to see what's going on. This gives the alien a chance to run, and the older agent, D, gets knocked down and nearly lets the alien attack the terrified cop, but K blasts him in time. All the cops are rightfully confused, especially the one in alien guts, but K flashes them with a trusty neuralizer and makes them think this was all a gas explosion. Then K and D look at the stars together one last time before D tells his partner that he's too old for this now, but he will miss the chase. But Kay's last words to his dear friend are the sad truth that, no, he won't, before neuralizing him too. Men in Black was originally a comic book that was eventually rolled up into being owned by Marvel. Sony made the film because they had the movie rights, while Marvel still had the comic book rights, kind of like that Spider-Man situation. Tommy Lee Jones enjoyed the comic book so much, he actually signed on before there was ever even a first script. He said that he knew smart and talented people would be attracted to it. And although he went on to reject the initial script they proposed to him, I think they nailed it in the end. We cut to an exciting foot chase taking place in the Big Apple. Jay, or James for now, outruns his fellow officers and keeps pace with an insanely fast and acrobatic suspect even after he leaps over a bridge. James can't do that, but he is resourceful and he uses the city to his advantage by hitching rides and taking shortcuts to catch back up. The suspect seems panicked but tries to pull a gun only for it to vanish after hitting the ground, then he ominously warns that he is coming. The suspect does an impressive maneuver to get away, followed by a superhuman maneuver to scale a building. Again, James is resourceful and manages to run fast enough to confront the suspect on the roof. James is weirded out after seeing him blink sideways, but then he repeats that someone is coming and we're too late before throwing himself over the edge. During a peaceful night in the country, a farmer named Edgar is complaining to his wife, Beatrice, about how his truck is the only thing pulling its weight around here before it gets totally smashed by a UFO. At the crash, a voice asks Edgar to drop his weapon, but he believes in the Second Amendment too much and tells the alien to pry the rifle from his cold, dead fingers, which the alien finds acceptable and proceeds to relieve Edgar of all of his remaining life and borrows his skin as a suit. We're just gonna continue to call the alien Edgar for convenience, but although he looks like him, he's definitely not. He goes inside and weirds Beatrice out by drinking an unholy amount of sugar water. Then she comments how his skin is falling off his bones, then he agrees and fixes it by stretching his Edgar suit, causing her to faint. At the police station, James is being questioned all about the botched chase. The cops clearly don't like James, and they certainly don't believe his story either, but a lady comes in quickly introducing herself as Deputy Medical Examiner Laurel Weaver, and she says that she believes him and wants to talk more at the morgue. She's not going to remember that though, because Kay makes sure to neuralize her, and then he unplugs the cameras before talking with James alone. James repeats the weird details, but unlike the other cops, Kay is taking him seriously and even wants to know if he could recognize the weapon that vanished if he saw it again. They go to a pawn shop to find out, and on the drive, James tries to guess which organization Kay belongs to, but doesn't believe his answer whenever he finds out that he works with aliens here on Earth. He doesn't have to wait long for proof though, and I want to go real moment to moment here because I love this next scene. They pull up to a shady pawn shop that James recognizes but thinks the owner Jeeves is too low level to deal in guns, so he tells Kay that he expects real answers after they're done wasting time here. Inside, Jeeves confirms James' story, saying that he doesn't know anything about weird guns, but gets visibly nervous when Kay walks in demanding that he shows James the imports. Jeeves feigns ignorance at first, but Kay draws his weapon and counts down from 3. James is playing a little good cop bad cop until Kay really blasts his head off, and James shouts at Kay to drop the weapon. But he stares in disbelief as Jeeves' head grows back before his eyes, and Kay makes him flip a switch to reveal all the alien weapons hidden everywhere. Sure enough, James recognizes the vanishing gun, and Kay reprimands Jeeves and tells him to get off this rock. They leave, and to help James deal with tonight's otherworldly events, Kay makes him forget it all happened. But he regains his senses in the middle of an apparently hilarious story from Kay, who leaves in a hurry after telling James to be at the address at this business card at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Back at the farm, Edgar's spree of evil continues when an unlucky exterminator ends up being the exterminated. And he gets his truck stolen, but thankfully it's too small for the UFO. Or is it? James goes to the address on the business card, which couldn't look any more inconspicuous if it tried, and once inside, he's instructed to take the elevator. After it stops, the head honcho himself is there saying that he's late and introduces himself as Zed. which always confused me until I learned places like Canada pronounce Z like that. He tells them that they're looking for the best of the best, and they only have one open position. James then goes on to stick out like a sore thumb in every way, from his casual attitude and attire to his unorthodox testing approaches. He breaks his pencil, he drags the table over to use, and he only shoots once during the weapons test, and his explanation actually has a ton of subtle world building. He didn't shoot any of the obvious targets because while they all seemed scary, upon James's closer inspection, they all had very rational reasons for their appearances, like an alien lifting weights or one with a sniffly nose. But little Tiffany shouldn't be out here at night with a quantum physics book, so that's why he made sure she got popped. Then, without a word, Zed leaves and joins Kay watching above and tells him that he hopes he knows what he's doing. Zed congratulates all the men in uniform and takes them to the final part of their test, the eye exam, aka the neuralizer, because they all suck. But Kay pulls James aside and tells him the purpose and the history of the Men in Black. In the 50s, the government started an organization to make contact with aliens. Everyone thought it was a joke until he was a group of some agents, an astronomer, and a lost kid that actually met aliens in 1961, where they proceeded to use the Earth as a place for refugees ever since. Naturally, James thinks Kay is crazy and thanks him for his time, but is left speechless again after Kay gets a cup of coffee from the lovable worm guys. There's a quick reference when Kay is leveling to James about how many aliens are on Earth. When Kay tells him there's about 1,500 aliens, James asks if there are any cab drivers. It seems innocuous at first, but in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, the character Ford Perfect writes that cab driving in New York is a great job for extraterrestrials inhabiting our planet and hoping to escape notice. James asks Kay what's the catch to all this, and he tells him that he'll sever contact with everyone and it will be as if he never existed. Then with a mix of curiosity and confusion on his face, James asks Kay if it's worth it, and he says that it is if you're strong enough. We briefly check in with Edgar, who's making his way to New York City, but his van seems rather damaged on top for some reason. James returns to the MIB headquarters only to find Kay waiting for him in the elevator, and as they descend, James accepts the offer, but makes it clear that they chose him for his skills and he's not to be called things like kid or sport. Then Kay says, "Sure thing, Slick, but all his skills are meaningless here." Then the elevator doors open, revealing the sprawling headquarters filled with advanced technology and aliens. There's a couple quick jokes when Kay is showing James around. James bumps into this ball that bounces just absolutely everywhere, and when Kay catches it, he says this is a joke from the Great Attractor, which is a real mysterious phenomenon out in space, which is causing this huge supercluster of galaxies, which affects the gravity of other galaxies around it, including our own. And next we see a bunch of aliens that are being monitored, and we see a bunch of celebrities on there, and my favorite, of course, is Danny DeVito. Zed then tells James it's time for the last step, to put on the last suit he's ever gonna wear. He's officially wiped from all records, he dons the black suit, and James officially becomes Agent J. Checking back in with Edgar, he continues to be super normal while he follows a businessman with a cat all the way from his jewelry store to a restaurant. The businessman meets his suspiciously tall friend, and he's warned that they must flee because a bug has followed him to this planet. But the danger is closer than they could know when Edgar drops off their pierogies with a heaping sight of cockroaches, of course revealing him to be the bug. Knowing his time is up, the business alien tells Edgar that they can kill him, but they won't find the galaxy. Edgar does indeed bring them to a swift end and takes the container while fleeing from the loyal kitty cat. Vincent D'Onofrio described his character as being angry and frustrated that he even has to wear this suit. Some of the ways they used to achieve his weird look was by making him walk with braces, taping his ankles down, and then gluing his eyelids down too. And he said it was quite painful. The director even added some insult to injury, saying that he spends about 6 hours a day in makeup to look almost normal. Back at the office, Zed assigns J and K's first assignment as a team, and it seems like a simple run-of-the-mill boundary violation. This alien isn't supposed to leave Manhattan, yet he's in Jersey, and they need to find out why. On the drive over, J can't believe how they have all kinds of alien tech, yet they drive such a simple Ford, and K is abrasive as always and has no response, but does tell J to never touch the red button. Arriving at the boundary violation, it's anything but normal. Kay leaves Jay to handle the frantic woman literally in the middle of labor while he talks to the dad off to the side. The delivery takes an unpredictable turn after Jay is lashed around by giant tentacles. All the while, Kay learns that they were simply leaving because they didn't like the neighborhood anymore, and the interrogation ends when Jay finally finishes delivering the baby squid thing. Kay knows it would take something big to cause them to leave, then to Jay's amazement, they get a lead about the alien's activity from a supermarket tabloid. It reads, "An alien stole my husband's skin." I'll give you 3 guesses who. Under the guise of FBI agents, they go over to Edgar's farm and interview his wife Beatrice. The squid delivery scene was the scene I tuned in on when I first watched this movie, and I remember just being wildly confused by it and really the rest of the movie until I watched the beginning just years later. She says that none of the local authorities believed her, and she repeats the events surrounding the original Edgar's demise. When she gets to the part about sugar water, Kay has heard enough, and he neuralizes her with a flimsy story about swamp gas and a weather balloon, but Jay thinks they can do better. Then Kay walks out while Jay is coming up with an increasingly complex backstory for her to be better off without Edgar. Outside of the crash site, the soil samples confirm Kay's worst fears. A bug is here. To put things into perspective, Kay grimly says that a bug means the morgue is their next best lead in the investigation. Over at the morgue, the victims of the bug's recent attacks are being wheeled in along with the cat still protecting his owner instead of being with Animal Protection Services for some reason. Laurel begins the autopsy only to find impossible results like the body getting warmer and missing internal organs. Then Jay and Kay show up, now posing as officials from the Department of Public Health, and ask to see the victims. Jay goes with Laurel, and it's painfully obvious to her that he has no clue what he's doing, but they both have a fading recollection of the other, almost like deja vu. Of course, we know they were both neuralized after Jay's foot chase earlier. Jay steps away to discreetly talk with his partner, but after just a few moments, Laurel is shouting for Jay. She notices something strange on the body's ear, and when Jay touches it, it reveals a tiny alien on his death throes was piloting the body. With the rest of his strength, his last words are, "To prevent war, the galaxy is on Orion's belt." Jay blows their cover even more when he forgets Kay's alias when he calls him over for an update. Unfortunately, Kay recognizes the alien as a member of the royal family of the Archelians, and even worse yet, the cryptic last words puzzle him too. Kay uses the Amnesia Blaster 5000 on Laurel a couple more times for good measure, and the two agents leave as special services show up to clean up the scene. Another quick check-in with Edgar. He breaks open the container he stole earlier and is disappointed to find it only contains diamonds. Bummer, huh? Back at HQ, Zed has some bad news for Jay. He shows him Orion's belt and explains how it's only 3 stars and can't possibly hold a galaxy, and he must have misheard those final words. Then Jay interrupts Kay, who was seemingly watching someone from his past life on a computer. Connecting the dots, Jay guesses that he was the lost kid when they first made contact, which means she was the lost girl that never got those flowers, and Kay confirms it all. Zed calls them both over to show how many other aliens have also been trying to flee recently, but Kay finds out why when he instructs the monitors to find a warship from the Archelians ominously hovering over the Earth. Zed sends them off to the tiny alien's jewelry store for any leads, but tells Kay to finally give Jay a weapon. But the weapon he gets is a tiny little gun that puts the fear of God into Kay for some reason. Edgar's a step ahead because he's already smashing the jewelry store looking for the galaxy. He pauses to study an old photo of a man with his beloved cat, but is pulled away when he hears his truck being towed. Edgar waddles over to stop the tow, but it's at this point the men in black arrive. They also notice the shrine to the cat and spring into action once they hear Edgar opening fire. Jay quickly shoots his tiny gun, and it's surprisingly powerful enough to send him flying back several feet. He tries and fails to stop Edgar again before he can drive off the tow truck, but at least Jay manages to detach the exterminator truck with the UFO in the back. After getting away, Edgar shakes down a street vendor to find out where we keep our dead, and he tells him the morgue. But he has no more questions, so I guess he knows what a morgue is, but not where we keep our dead. Anyway, Zed calls Kay from HQ and updates them that the Archelians are holding the men in black responsible for everything with the message that they return the galaxy. Feeling a little desperate at this point, Kay goes and talks to this weird-looking alien who's selling newspapers. Psych, the pug is actually the alien and his name is Frank. After a dash of animal abuse, Frank spills the beans that somehow a marble-sized galaxy is hidden here on Earth and the bug wants it as an unlimited subatomic power source to wipe out the Archelians, and probably us too, I'd speculate. Kay is perplexed, but gets one step closer, stating that the galaxy is not on the constellation like they thought. Then after studying Frank barking at a nearby cat, Jay pieces the rest of the mystery together. Back at the morgue, Laurel is toiling away at her desk when the tiny alien's cat jumps in her way. It's here she confirms Jay's suspicions and is mystified by the galaxy on the collar of the cat named Orion. But Orion senses danger nearby and hides as Edgar shows up trying to claim him. The dude manning the counter makes the mistake of swatting some flies in front of Edgar, so he's quickly dealt with. Then Edgar goes to the back and holds Laurel hostage, demanding she give him the cat. The men in black follow shortly behind, and Kay allows Jay a couple of minutes solo so they don't have to keep neuralizing the poor woman. But Jay fumbles the situation hard when he confuses Laurel's hints and gestures as flirting instead of genuine signs of danger. Kay enters and finds the other employee cocooned on the ceiling and barges in the back just as Orion jumps out and is snatched up by Edgar. Using his alien strength, he takes both Laurel and the galaxy and gets away in a stolen taxi, then tells her to drive him to a place in a photo. Back at HQ, Zed informs the duo that the Archelians are still threatening the Earth and continuing to demand that they deliver the galaxy. In the making of, Linda Fiorentino, who plays Laurel, said that when she met with director Barry Sonnenfeld, he warned her that there would be no nudity, and he thought that she might not want the part. But she just laughed her ass off while telling the story. Must be some reputation, huh? Kay points out that they're in a stalemate of sorts. While Edgar has the galaxy, he can't leave because they have his ship from the exterminator van, so Kay makes sure to monitor all the ships in New York. However, the situation worsens as the Archelians advance their threats. Deliver the galaxy or Earth will be destroyed within 1 galactic week. Or, 1 hour here. Then once again, while everyone else seems lost, Jay knows where to go after studying the mural of the old UFOs hidden in the Flushing Meadows Corona Park. Of course, Jay totally nailed the guess, and when Edgar gets there, he makes sure to bring Laurel along as a boat snack for later. Then the men in black are maxing out their old Ford down the highway, but with no time left to spare, Kay tells Jay to finally hit that red button. He does, just as they're about ready to smash into a Jeep, but the car turns into a small jet, allowing them to fly upside down above everybody. Another day in the office for Kay, though. With 8 minutes left on the clock, they arrive just as the ship starts to take off, and this calls for the big guns. They blast it down, and it crashes back in front of them. Still another day in the office for Kay. Not willing to admit defeat, Edgar emerges and reveals his true form as a gigantic cockroach monster. He swallows the agent's guns, then knocks them aside. Then Kay gives Jay an order not to let the bug get to the second ship, and then does something crazy. He says he's getting his gun back, and then provokes Edgar to eat him. Meanwhile, Laurel has gotten away during all the action, and she's watching as Jay hopelessly tries to keep Edgar from boarding that second ship. Nothing Jay does seems to faze Edgar until he's knocked against an old dumpster, causing a bunch of roaches to spill out. Like with the exterminator and the guy at the morgue, Edgar can't help but to defend his fellow insects, and he comes back to stop Jay from crushing them. Jay holds his ground, taunting the bug until a charging noise indicates that Kay has finally found his gun, blowing Edgar up from the inside. They call off the Archelians, then, while reflecting over a job well done, Edgar makes one more surprise attack, but Laurel is the one to end him with Jay's gun. Outside HQ, Kay breaks out the neuralizer, but to Jay's surprise, Kay says it's for himself, not Laurel. Like his partner D in the beginning, Kay takes a moment with Jay to appreciate how beautiful the stars really are before confessing that he hasn't been training a partner, he's been training a replacement. Jay starts to protest, but Kay says that he has a lifetime of memories that he'd rather not have. He tells Jay how to use the neuralizer, and then for the first time in the entire movie, Kay calls him by his name, saying, "See you around, Jay." But Jay's last words to his dear friend are the sad truth that no, he won't, before neuralizing him too. The only evidence of their adventure being the tabloids, where they have stories on a flying car, a UFO, and even a man miraculously waking from a 35-year coma. Then Jay and Elle drive off into New York as we zoom out to see our galaxy is nothing but a marvel for beings far beyond our understanding. Here come the men in... Oh, sorry. Columbia offered Will Smith a chance to dip his toes back into music by doing the Men in Black single, followed by an album. Will Smith said he had some writer's block until he seen Mikey, the alien in the beginning of the movie, who also dances with him in the music video. Okay, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed the breakdown, do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, that stuff helps me out a ton. Let me know if you learned anything new about this beloved classic, and let me know what you want me to cover next Friday. But until then, y'all be good. I'll see you then.